So I just decided to let you know, which actually I already sent you pictures and stuff, but I am not a cotton-headed ninny muggin.
Cotton-headed ninny muggin.
I cannot say it that fast. It's going to not sound right and maybe say a bad word.
That's because I've seen Elf a million times.
Which I've seen it too. I just didn't remember that part. But I think I outdid myself. I decorated the house, tried to,
That may have been one of the most important parts, cotton-headed ninny muggins. Anyway, you did decorate the house. I saw the
I did a good
pictures.
job.
It looks good. Yeah. Mine's been up since Veterans Day because the bank was always closed on Veterans Day, so I took that time to decorate. But I love it. Christmas is like I said, my favorite time of year.
I know. What especially about it do you love the most, though?
I love the Christmas music because, I wake up to Christmas music 365 days a year. When I have to set my alarm, that's what comes on is Christmas music.
Is it random Christmas music?
It's random Christmas music.
So there's some mornings you wake up to Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas.
Yes, and the mornings I wake up to Wham. Oh. That's my favorite. This last Christmas song, I'm not going to sing it now, but I know you've heard me singing it in the office. That is my favorite Christmas song.
Oh, I know.
I love it. I turn it up really loud and I start singing, and I'm really obnoxious to all the people in there because I'm not talented singing. And so the mornings that I wake up to that song, that's my all-time favorite. I'm very happy. I can't say that I bounce out of bed, but I get out of bed pretty happy that day. I love the music. I love the lights. I love all
I'm
of
just
it.
thinking,
I don't like spending money on presents, but I like.
It just cracks me up because, we're best friends. So I know so much about you. And yes, I know you love Christmas, but your whole face lights up like literally like Santa Claus is coming and going to bring you everything on your list.
I love
and you probably have you make hot cocoa and
everything.
You make cookies. You do all that stuff.
I do all that.
But then to know you the way, as well as I know you outside of Christmas, it's like two different people.
I know, because it's my time. I love all holidays. I love Halloween.
You do love Halloween. I know you love Halloween.
Any reason to
really,
decorate.
any holiday? Oh, is that what it is?
Not like 4th of July is okay, but the colors aren't really my colors.
And there's some that, are more serious,
Right. I don't like Valentine's Day necessarily, but.
Oh, yeah. I'm not, I've never been a big Valentine's Day person.
And Thanksgiving, I have to say that people don't like Thanksgiving, or they think that Thanksgiving gets skipped over. It does, but there is a Thanksgiving song out that I sent you this year because I'm like, okay, now Thanksgiving's coming out.
Well, I have different views on Thanksgiving now, too, that we probably don't want to address in this because I don't want to make people angry, but let's just say I don't think it was as lovely as they thought it was all those years ago when I was dressing as a pilgrim and an Indian. And
I like the pumpkins and the turkeys.
I
don't
get
care
it.
about
I like the ham better. Yeah. I like the ham better.
Yeah.
No, but I've never for me, it's not that I don't like Valentine's Day. I've just always been kind of cynical that it was really not a real thing, but it was created by the chocolate people and
they're all made up.
Yeah,
and I love all the chocolate that comes with all the holidays.
Yeah, I do too. But
Reese's
I don't, buy me chocolate all the time.
I always buy chocolate.
I know we do.
But inflation hit everything. Those peanut butter kiss things that we get at the dollar store, because the dollar store is my favorite.
Listen,
they're smaller.
It's that big now. And used to, it was that big and they would have a big chunk of peanut butter in it. Now it doesn't.
Inflation has hit the Halloween candy.
Hit everything.
All right, so today we have Stephen Davis. He is no relation to me, but he does have a wonderful last name. He's got a great story. We're having him on today, so we're really excited about that.
Very.
He's been on the cover of Style magazine before, and he just has a great story.
He does a lot of exciting. I think he's going to have a lot of great things to talk to us about.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for joining us today on the Style Podcast. Today we have Stephen Davis joining us. Thanks, Stephen, for coming in and meeting with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
All right, we have to just start at the beginning. You got to tell us your story. You have a fantastic story. I know you have been featured in our magazine. You've been on the cover of the magazine before, so we're just going to start at the beginning. You got to tell us your story, how you ended up here.
Well, it all started back in 2021, and I mean the story could go into great details, and that's why I have a book out, Alone in the Fire, and it goes through all the details of where I started as a young man, a young kid, where my family grew up. And you can learn all about that on my website, chiefstephendavis.com. But my story started in 21 when I was terminated from Orange County. I was a battalion chief there who essentially didn't write up my personnel for refusing for refusing the vaccination. So I had many personnel, over 100 of them, who were vaccinated, who had gotten medical exemption, who had religious exemptions. When I received the list, I basically was like, hey, they're not supposed to be on this list. And the reason for it is because they had gotten one of those three things. They were vaccinated, they had a card, they had medical exemption or a religious exemption. And so when I came to my supervisors and said, hey, listen, we have to correct this list, they said, just write them up, let them grieve it later. And that right there was a big flag to me, because while at the time I didn't have a real big stance on the vaccination, I did have a big issue with doing things against policy. It violated policy, it violated federal law, it violated state law, and I knew these things. Right. So I ended up standing up and saying that's not something I'm going to do. I'm not willing to write people up against these policies. You're breaking the law. And when I did that, I was made an example of and terminated.
I have to give you kudos for it. A lot of people would have just fallen in line. A lot of people would. I'm not sure our viewers know, but I'm sure anyone that knows who I am knows exactly how I felt about everything from the beginning up until even more so now. It was always something I had an issue with. I'm very against government being involved in our personal lives and telling me that I have to inject something into my body, regardless if I had, antibodies from having it or an immunity. And so I really, it's impressive because at a battalion chief level at Orange County Fire, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
so for you to take a
stance. Third in the state as far as the size.
Yeah.
And I was one of 27 battalion chiefs. So, I mean, I was not, I was middle management, but I was very well respected in the community, very well liked, had a lot of things going for me in the department, not an issue with the department at all. And so for them to just make an example of me, and this is all politically driven, and they made an example of me.
And let me just ask this, as far as the chain of command goes in Orange County, I know there's the chief, right?
Right.
Who's over him, though? Is it?
Essentially the public safety director and the mayor.
Okay, gotcha.
The Orange County mayor, okay.
Correct.
So how did your battalion take it when you were terminated?
Well, I it wasn't a surprise. I had a lot of support, and a lot of the firefighters there, like I said, I was very, very involved, and I've spent years and years getting to know people, and I made it my duty as not only just a chief officer when I was a lieutenant, when I was a firefighter, just to get to know people, spend the time with people, building relationships. And so, I would go in, and if it was the junior guy in the fire department, I would know that person. I would know that they had a family. I would know that they had kids. I may not know their kids' names, but I would at least know their spouse's name. If it was one of my lieutenants or one of my captains, then I would know their spouse. I would know their kids. And I made that apparent to make that a big thing for my life. And people knew that. And that's why I wasn't a surprise. I got a lot of support after I was terminated, and people, said this shouldn't be happening. They made an example of me. And it was really for control, because after I was terminated, you heard the rumors. I heard everybody talking that, yes, I don't agree with this, but if I do this, I was considered a verb. I'll be Steve Davis. And they didn't want to be terminated in the same way I was.
And I think that's
for stepping out of line.
The word that you used, control. That was what everything was about.
Oh, yeah.
From the top to the bottom. And I've always been that kind of, I'll be honest, and you know this about me, I loathe being told what to do. I loathe it. I really do. And then if it's something that I just feel very strongly about, it's like, I'm going to dig my heels in, and that's it. And
Sure.
No holds barred. It didn't matter what it was. So I respect that. I think it's amazing. In a lot of ways, it's like, okay, sad that came, it came to an end there. But then you left Orange County and came
to Lake
County.
Okay.
It was a blessing. And I always say that when I got terminated from Orange County, it was actually a really good feeling. Not a good feeling, I should say, but it was one door closed, one door open. I always believed that I'd be in Orange County for 25, 30 years. That was my home. That's where I grew up. That's where I was raised. That was going to be where I ended my career. I did end my career there, kind of, but it was taken from me, a passion that I had wanted to do my entire life. You know, as a young teenager, I wanted to be a fireman. And when I went into the military, that's what I wanted to do. I was a medic. I wasn't a fireman because they gotten rid of the position, but it was something I always wanted to do. And the leadership there, in quotations, leadership, they essentially took away that passion. They immediately, without even a thought, stole it from me. And so while that door closed, another door opened, and I believed that I was supposed to be in Lake County. And I got picked up 13 days later. A termination ended up with a promotion. I got a promotion with it and a new position. Loved working in Lake County. Had a really good time here in this department, here in this county, and it gave me an opportunity to find closure. And I think that's what was the purpose of getting that position. I worked here for about a year and a half, and then some other things came into my life that opened up bigger doors and to help a bigger community of people. And that's essentially what I'm doing today.
How do you recognize those things? Like, we all have these moments in our lives where we say, this is what we're supposed to do. Sometimes we get a little scared. Sometimes we say, okay, I'm in this really nice job making money that I can count on. How'd you decide to take the leap and say, here, okay, I'm going?
It is a difficult decision, I won't lie. Leaving the fire service was not easy. That's all I ever wanted to do. But I knew it was a chapter in my life that if I was going to do something bigger, I had to give things up. There's a book called Millionaire on the Fast Lane with MJ DeMarco, and he talks about that in his book, where it's, if you're going to set yourself a goal, whether it's financials or something to that effect, but you have to give something up. And so I had given up a few things after I left Lake County, one being the fire service. I gave it up completely. And I was able to focus on a lot of the things that I'm passionate about today. And one is my podcasts, my show called the Raising Alphas Project. And we talk about these things. We talk about you're more than just something else. Like, I always refer to firefighters as you're more than just a firefighter. See, I only believed that I was a firefighter and I could never do anything else. I have multiple conversations with a lot of guys I used to work with, and they think, well, Steve, how can I do that? You have a master's degree and you've done this and you've climbed here. And I'm like, dude, you don't have to have any of that. Like, everything that I do today has nothing to do with what I've created in my life. I said, you're more than just a fireman. You're more than just fill in the blank. And we talk about those things. You just got to believe in yourself, and you just got to take that risk.
And you do, that's.
I know. Shayna's a manifesting maniac. We love it.
God gives us very powerful minds.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people get into ruts and they just keep going and going and going. And I think you're right. You have to give up almost who you are at one point in life to become who you really are supposed to be and meant to be. And
we think we are.
Yes.
Because we're kind of in this box from the time we've made our decision and went to school and got a career, and this is who we are, and it's who we associate ourselves with.
And used to, it's always, a lot of people still do, but you start in a job, and a lot of people, they believe that's that, and that's what they do for forever, even if they have a dream or a passion for something.
It's a part of their
else.
identity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but you got to end it on your own terms when you came to Lake County, really. Yeah, which is the best part of it.
Yeah, I mean, walking away from the fire service wasn't an easy decision, but ultimately it was my decision, and I got to leave. And while there's sometimes you see a fire truck roll down the street, I kind of look at it, and people say, "Do you miss it?" And really, I mean, it's in the past for me. It was a great profession. I enjoyed it. It's molded me to the person I am today, the leader, the man, the husband, the father. But at the end of the day, it's not who I am. I'm not controlled by who I was as a chief officer in the fire service. It was a part of my life. It was a chapter, and I'm moving forward. So.
Well, we're going to take just a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Lake Center Home Care and Disability Consultants. We'll be right back.
Get all the Social Security disability benefits you deserve with disability consultants Chris Bell and Jeff Bell. Our experienced Florida certified ADR handle claims on a contingency fee basis, meaning you don't pay unless we recover money for you. We have established a strong reputation as a firm that cares and provides the best care to its clients. Call us today or visit cbell.com.
Welcome back to the Style Podcast. We've got Stephen Davis with us today. Thank you again. We've been having some great conversation with him, especially during the break. We need a behind-the-scenes episode. Talk to me about your passion, your raising alphas. Talk to me about that.
So raising alphas, it started, I think it's going on to our third year, and it really just started out as a T-shirt idea. We had a couple shirts. My partner and I had a couple shirts that just said "Raising Alphas," and we started that because there was a lot of stuff going on in the 2020 season that masking our kids, and I was totally against that. And then the 21 year came around, and now you're forcing us to have vaccinations with these with our kids, and I'm against it. And so who's going to speak up for our kids if not us? And so that's something that I push. Like, I want to make sure my kids are well aware of what's going on and what's being told to them when I'm not around. Because when I'm not around, then they can be easily influenced by teachers, principals, coaches, peers, and maybe their friends, family. And so me making sure that I've instilled a strong foundation for my boys was super important. So raising alphas is not something that was really geared towards male boys. It's geared for girls and boys.
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Because as we're talking, I have two alphas sitting across from me. So I know there's two alphas.
And I know it's probably not that feminine to be that way, but that's just who I am. So.
But it being feminine is alpha-like. I mean, and this is something that we're trying to teach and re-engage with parents and just people in our community, is because there are things that I'm going to learn from you as a parent that I may not instill in my family values. That's a good idea. And it's these things that we learn. We've gotten away from these things in our culture over the last couple decades, and we have to kind of get back into it. And so when we talk about raising alphas, that is 100%. I don't have girls. My partner doesn't have girls. But we interview women who talk about their young ladies. We had a local Lake County resident on the show a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about her disability with multiple sclerosis, and how that's kind of empowered her two daughters, teenage daughters. And so we've talked about those things. Learning those kind of life lessons. But we just started out with t-shirts, and we were walking around Save Our Generation a few years ago. We got a lot of comments, and we had no idea what we were doing. I always tell this story is like David and I were driving to the Save Our Generation. We had a cardboard box full of t-shirts. We had no way to receive money, no cash on us, no PayPal, no Cash App, nothing. Download. So we're doing that on the way there. Pulled over to Lowe's, I believe, and picked up a hand truck so we could throw the shirts in that. And then when we get there, people were like, "Who are these two guys?" Like, we're just walking around. They gave us a table. We didn't have to pay for it.
I love it.
We sold shirts. We just sold shirts.
He's a genius, yeah.
Yeah, and then a bunch of people with cameras were like, "Hey, can we interview guys?" And then that's when we knew we had something bigger than just a T-shirt.
It is a big deal, and you're not wrong. One thing that I think it did teach me in the same time frame, it really hit me that we're the last line of defense with our kids. They get so much thrown at them with social media and all of the influencers and things like that it was like, okay, I need you guys to understand something. And sometimes I think my kids will be like, "Hey, Mom, don't say that. That's too loud." Like when I would be upset about a mask or walking against the arrow in Publix. And they would get on to me, especially, that was my
I'm a Walmart shopper. We didn't have arrows. We went
it was
everywhere.
like the highlight of my day to watch people freak out. But especially my son, he was like, "Mom," and I'm like, "No, you don't understand. If I don't speak up, this is how things go awry everywhere in history. If no one stands up for what they believe in, we are destined to repeat it, and it just continues." So, but I love that you include females in it, because it is something I always joke. I don't know if your kids ever watched Phineas and Ferb. They didn't. It's a cartoon. My kids are probably older than yours a lot, 20 and 17. But they loved it. And Phineas is always like, Ferb, I know what we're going to do today. And that's what it reminds me of. Because I always come up with something new, be like, Lori, I know what we're going to do today. And that's what it reminds me of with the T-shirts and the hand truck and just fly by the seat of your pants.
And we did. And even today with our show, it's, if you look back some of our original content, I mean, it's literally the two of us sitting at a kitchen table on a webcam on my laptop. And that's how we're recording. And we got some cheap Amazon podcast equipment, and the audio is garbage. And then we kind of upgraded, and we got really nice equipment, video. We have a staff now. We have a studio now. And so those things have just come to fruition just because we took a leap of faith. And we're still growing. I mean, we're not in the YouTube community. We're very, very small. But we're approaching 75,000. We're just under 60, but our goal is 75 before the end of the year.
That's still really impressive.
We did that in 1 year. We were at 300 last October, and we're at 57.5 right now. So we've done that in 1 year. And
are you also on like Spotify?
We're on Spotify. We're on everything. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble. We're on everything.
So are you talking on the podcast? Because I have not listened to your podcast yet. I did read the article. It was in the magazine and some other stuff I found about you. But on the podcast, are you talking to the younger generations about this is what you need to do. This is how you need to look at things. What kind of advice are you giving them?
So what our show kind of does, we kind of encompass a lot of different things. What we like to do is have parents on and give different perspectives on how they parent. So we've had parents on who have adopted children, who have taken on children with autism, maybe had a disability, and then they've kind of pass that on to say, hey, this is how you get through it. Don't let this define you. And then we'll have just one-on-one talks with each other about different things on how to raise families, or maybe some struggles that we've had. One of the big things that we started taking on earlier this year was having experts come in. So I've had, a good friend of mine who's an attorney. He talks about the importance of having family documents in place. That way, if a family member passes, spouse, husband, whatever the case is, passes, you have the right documentation to leave to your children. Having those things in line. I have a friend who's a big into insurance. Why that's important about generational wealth. I've had business entrepreneurs on to talk about how those are important. That you don't have to struggle with just going through the everyday, I'm just a waiter or a bartender or a fireman or name the profession. You can throw any profession in there.
Right.
If you want to do something bigger in entrepreneurship and business and owning, it's not easy. It's very hard. But if you're a hustler,
We've said a million times, kids don't know what they don't know. And
Correct.
My daughter is 23, my son's 14. But I've had this conversation with my daughter recently that she said, Mom, in school we're learning about algebra. Mm-hmm. And essentially we're always solving for X somehow during the day.
Not really. I told you I've never used
She's
it.
like, I need to know how to get a mortgage, what it takes to survive, how to pay rent, what living expenses are, and when she said
how to be a good human. I've said that.
Human. Yeah, and I'm in the middle of in the journal that I make for her, I'm writing all these little silly isms, as I call them, kind of like little proverbs, one-line things on how to do stuff. But we don't realize it until it's like trial by fire. We've got to figure it out on our own. And she said, Mom, I have no idea what to do to get a mortgage or how to rent something she said, I remember you laughing because I didn't know how to write a check because I was in banking for a lot of years. And I said, well, Nana and Poppy didn't send me down and say, this is how you got to get a mortgage. This is what you have to do to write a check.
Isn't that some of the things that you should be taught?
But those are, that's what I mean. It's so important.
What are we doing wasting our time for the entire time in school? And I don't want to dig on the education
but you're
system.
right.
I do that a lot.
Right.
But we were
they
talking.
need life skills.
Oh, well, I actually, I went to school. I got a degree in communications. I actually wanted to be an NFL sideline reporter. Long story short, see, thank you. And then while I was teaching, but I got married, had kids, and I taught for 10 years. It was very conducive to having my children. And then while I was in it, though, I loved the kids, and I had a passion. But I got really tired of the testing and the things that to me were not important for the kids. And I was burnt out. So I got my MBA, got into what I'm doing now. But I look back and I think to myself, some of the stuff that I taught, and I remember thinking,
Waste of time.
Yeah.
I've never used a quantitative method ever, and I still don't. I can't tell you what it was or is. So I
slope
needed life
thing.
skills.
The
Pythagorean
slope thing was
theorem,
coming.
theory.
Right. I'm not launching rockets into space. I need to know basic life skills. So that's what my daughter and I were having the conversation about. There's not a class that teaches that. So kids are like kind of thrown to the wolves, or they're trying to figure it out by watching social media.
Taxes.
Right. They don't know
how
about
to set
that.
up a bank account, how to set up a business.
And how important that is.
How to apply for, like you said, a car.
Right.
A car loan or a home loan, or let's just go to school and just continue to throw money at this school who's going to teach us nothing.
Well, and then another thing that bothers me, because now I have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old. And for example, my son is a senior and he's done really well with AP classes and, has college credit for those. And then he's dual enrolled. So, but at the same time, he won't be 18 till May. And when he graduates high school, he'll have so many college credits, he will almost need to be able to declare his major. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, he's going to be 18. I am 49 years old, unfortunately. And
we don't know what we want to do.
And I still wake up today and go, maybe I want to try this today. To expect a kid to know that. But colleges even, they'll say, no, you got to know what you're going to do so you can apply to that specific school.
Yeah. Pressure on. I would have liked to seen, and we talked about this yesterday on our show, is the education system adopting more like foreign language. So if you go to other countries, they really focus on English for a second language. Mm-hmm. And here, state of Florida, I think Spanish or maybe French Creole would probably be a strong one. In our house, we speak Russian and German. So those are things that my children have to learn. Those is because that's where, my wife's, that's her languages. And so those are things that I wish the school system would figure out, is like, we should be adopting foreign language, not in high school, 2 years of high school. There's not enough time. It should be adopted early on.
In elementary school.
Kindergarten.
Because that's when you're most impressionable, 0 to 7. Exactly. And so if we catch them, that's why my sisters are both in the education system. And one of them, I can remember, taught VPK for years. And she would get children that only spoke Spanish. But by the time they left her at the end of that school year, because they had learned through interacting and play, they were speaking English.
Sure.
That's crazy. Russian and German, though. Sorry, that's impressive. Jimmy's going to really, because my father-in-law is actually from Germany, and my children don't know a word of German. I'm going to have to hold his feet to the fire.
We're going to take another quick break, and we will be back in just a few minutes. But first, I'd like to thank Lake Center Home Care and Disability Consultants for making everything happen today.
Nobody wants an aging family member who is unable to care for themselves to be home alone. Lake Center Home Care believes the best healing happens when you are most comfortable. The company provides exceptional personal care in the comfort and privacy of your own home. Whether you need skilled nursing, physical therapy, home health aides, or companion services, your loved ones will enjoy peace of mind knowing you're being taken care of and treated with respect and dignity. Lake Center Home Care is locally owned and managed with a team of highly qualified professionals who are passionate about taking care of their neighbors. Call 352-315-0050 or visit golchc.com to learn more about this amazing company.
Welcome back. Today we have Stephen Davis with us. Tell us about your book now.
So Alone in the Fire came out this past June, and it's my first authored book. It tells the story of how I was in the fire service, how I became the leader, the person I am today. It goes through my very first alarm, and I'll let the readers read that, but it's essentially when I was 6 years old and I responded to a call at a friend's house and saved a little girl's life. She's alive today because of that first alarm. And that essentially has set the path of who I am today. And while my story about being terminated in Orange County is the essentially the premise of this entire book, it really talks about how I hold people accountable and how that I was destined to be a person that looks after other people. And I did that in my previous profession. I talk about that in the book. I even put in the back of the book, there's all the receipts. And when I say receipts, it's all the public records. It's all the emails. It's all the things that they did wrong that is public record. And I've pulled it. And I don't overwhelm the reader with all the receipts, because that's what the attorneys are for. We have a huge lawsuit that's still in the federal system. And once that gets won, just like many that have happened over the last couple years around the United States, this is going to be even bigger. It's going to be a talking point for years and years. But I basically show all the receipts in the back of the book, and
Always got to save receipts.
got to save receipts.
save receipts.
You
Proof,
put it in.
evidence.
Yep, I have it all,
Save
and they were, you know, it's,
You want
you-
to try to say you didn't say that? Well, I've got it right.
got it right here.
When you sat down to write your book, I'm sure you had help writing it, but when you sat down to write it, how did you decide where you were going to start? Like childhood in the beginning? Like we've never written a book, so how do you know what's important, what to include, and how do you remember everything to get it all in there?
I'm gonna tell you that I'll start back with a good friend of mine. His name is Paul Lawrence, and he has three boys. And I won't get into the story with them. They had two of them had gotten in an accident. I'd taken care of them during that time. We're a real close family, the all of us. And his middle son Joe is now my business partner. He's working on his master's in publishing, and he actually has published a couple books and written a couple books and published his father's. And his father, good friend of mine, went to fire school. He had published his first book, like, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. And I was like, man, that's really cool. One day I want to do that. And so what do you write about? You know, that's kind of everybody's thought is what do you write about? You know, maybe you have a story. When I was terminated from Orange County, I knew I had a story, and I knew that books live forever. I could put things. I was a victim, as many of us have been, on social media and some of the online stuff. It gets censored, and I've tried to put things out, and it gets censored. It gets throttled. We've all seen it. A book lives. And when I'm gone, this will still be here. If I sell 1 million copies, then people will still have the story sitting in there, maybe collecting dust, but the story will still be there. And that was kind of the idea, that I wanted to tell the story so it continues to live. It's the first alarm because there's more to the story, because we're in a lawsuit. So the second alarm will come out at some point once the verdict is in. But how do I write that? How did I get there? Well, Joe is a genius. He's my business partner now. We've started a company called Choice Press, where now we bring in authors, and we provide a really good opportunity for you to write a book. We'll help you write the book. We'll help you publish the book. We'll help you market the book. We'll help you put you on our show to do more marketing. And so we've got a whole system and model that's built, Choice Press, and it's helping the person that has a good story. You have a unique story, and so that's part of it.
I think we might be writing a book.
I told your dad that a long time ago.
My dad has written a couple, and he does a great
He
job.
could help us.
He could. So are you self-published or?
Self-published.
I love that. And where can we get it? Where can the reader or the viewers get it?
So I have two sites. I have aloneinthefire.com, and that's the book website. And then I have my personal author page, chiefstephendavis.com. And that's where I'm going to put more stuff. I do stuff with a blog on there. I haven't updated in a while, but a blog on there, and I've done other things like coaching and stuff like that, leadership. I'll do events and speaking engagements and stuff like that. Those are available on the website. But the second book is coming out first of the year. It's called Passing Down the Legacy. It's essentially a journal to tell your unique story. So when you leave this world, how do you pass on your story? You're going to pass it on to your children, and hopefully you could pass it on to the grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, people that may have never met you. And so the journal, Passing Down the Legacy, written by you, it's all essentially giving you a way to write. Like, we're asking specific questions.
Like it's the blueprint for it.
We have a blueprint,
Okay.
and it's basically you just writing in it. And we give questions through the entire book. Where are you from? Who did you date? You know, business ventures, religious background, stuff like that. But essentially, it tells your story. And that comes out January 1st. Looking forward to that launch. It's going to be a big one, too.
So you said you do speaking engagements, things like that. Do you ever speak at schools, high schools, middle
I
schools?
haven't had an opportunity. I've spoken at 2 schools, but it's been a little bit of time. I've spoken at several events here in Lake County, in Orange County. I've spoken at political events. There's these political events, especially with us just exiting this year's election. I was involved in just some local elections and doing speaking engagements for that. And then I've done stuff at schools speaking as well.
Because I would think that would be an amazing thing for especially kids that are close to graduation, or deciding what they want to do to hear someone like you speak about everything that you've done.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm always open for
First Academy, Leesburg.
Here it is. Yeah, no, if you, I have all my contact information on the website. I mean, if someone was interested in me speaking at their school or an event, then I would love to come and tell my story. And if not just my story, you know, I've moved into business ownership and entrepreneurship. I do very well, and it was a success driven by just a leap of faith, really. And you know, it's something that I never thought I would do. I thought I'd be a fireman for the rest of my life. And again, like we said earlier, you know, it was something I enjoyed doing. It was a passion, but I've stepped into another role. I've gone from a fire chief to a chief executive officer. So, you know, those are some of the things that we do.
What do you think your legacy is going to be for your kids?
Ooh, I don't know.
You're still writing it?
Yeah, there's something that I talk about in the book called the ladder. And it's essentially meeting that top part of the position. And am I there? Am I someone that people are rallying to? Is that top position where I'm talking about the leaving a legacy? I don't know if I'm there yet. You know, I've done some really great things. I think it was just me being, you know, just every day. But will I leave that legacy and people are rallying behind me? Then maybe. I don't know.
I think you will.
Yeah.
I mean, I think anytime someone that isn't out there for the glory of it, but they're doing it because they truly, truly believe in what they're saying and speaking against or for, that's a big deal. You know, because I'm friends with Anthony as well. And when we had him on, that's the one thing I've always said about Anthony. You know, sometimes his delivery can be a little abrasive. Sure. Mine can too. But one thing I have to hand to him is that, and I've always said, if he believes in it, that's it. He's going to do it. And I think the same, that's the way you come across. I think that's a big deal. And I really do think kids need to see that. We need to quit worrying so much about them worrying about what are the girls wearing, or, you know, what's the latest,
those aren't the important things.
Like, I don't know. It's
and being a grown up is scary sometimes, and that's okay.
Gosh, yes.
But
we have to prepare them. We
have
to prepare them, and sometimes I think the education system is not doing that. But that is our responsibility as parents, is to prepare our children to take on the toughest challenges. And I tell my oldest today, you know, we challenge the things that don't sound right, but we do it in a tactful, respectful way. When I challenged my leadership, quote unquote leadership in Orange County, I wasn't coming across as brash. I didn't come across as aggressive. I didn't say, you know, throw a bunch of, foul language or anything. I sat in an office and I said, hey, look, here's what I found. This is what I know. This is what we're doing wrong. Here's the policy. I was very, very professional. And they said, well, you're going to do it anyways. And they chose to die on that hill to say, I'm in charge. You're going to do what I say, even though I'm violating the policy, because no one's going to check me. Well, I was the worst person they could have done that to, because I'm going to hold everyone accountable.
Well, and you died on your hill. Like, you decided you were going to.
And you're going to do it the right way.
Do it the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And I am a firm believer. Jimmy, my husband, always laughs and jokes and says, Shayna, you have a cause every day. And it'll be
we all need
things.
A cause.
And he's like, because I really hate injustice. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, oh, here it is. This is what it is today. But I really do believe everybody needs a hill.
Sure.
And you got to figure out what that hill is.
I think your injustice led to something great, though. So not all injustices are wrong to us now that we're on the other side of it. When you're in the middle of COVID and everybody's scared and nobody knows what to do, and now we've got all these revelations coming afterwards as well that would have changed the thought process and the course of history, so to speak. You were one of the people who stood up and said,
hopefully
it's not going to happen this way.
Hopefully moving forward, there will be people held accountable for things that
hope
happened.
So. I hope
because it needs to happen.
If you signed your name on a dotted line anywhere, I think you should be held accountable.
I completely agree.
There's a lot of good friends of mine, and if they see and watch this, they're going to hate that I say this, and I might get a lot of heat from it. But if you signed your name on a dotted line to issue things, you should be held accountable.
I 100% agree.
You're not exempt, and you held a position, and the fact that you didn't stand up for those things, you should be. And now, to the extent of what? Are they going to lose their positions? I don't think so. Should they have some sort of accountability? 100%.
Some people should. Some people
And
should
those
definitely
people
lose
will.
their
And those
positions.
people will. And
Because I think too, what bothered me the most, what I watched throughout that entire thing, was the mass hysteria that was caused, especially from the media.
Mm-hmm.
And it frustrated me because I knew that some of the stuff that was being peddled was just not correct at all.
you're seeing it all come out now.
It is. And people need to be held accountable. And because people were legitimately just so frightened and made decisions they probably never would have made had they not been told.
And I feel sorry for those because they're really good people.
Exactly.
We have really good people that I worked with that were peers of mine, and they were forced to make this decision. But at the end of the day, they still made the decision.
They
It was
did.
their decision, and they signed that dotted line. And it is what it is. You know, you're going to have to be held accountable. You know, you're going to have to meet your maker, and you know that's part of life. So I made a decision. It cost me my profession. It cost me a passion. I'm doing fine just now. You know, right now I'm doing well.
I think your next chapter might be your best chapter.
I do too.
Definitely.
Thank you for joining us today, Stephen. We've got to wrap it up here. Once again, we want to thank our sponsors, Disability Consultants and Lake Center Home Care. It has been a real pleasure having you on the podcast
I loved it.
today.
so much.
Thank you.
Good time.
Thank you.
So that went really well.
He was
What a
amazing.
great interview.
Amazing.
I didn't realize, I read his article in Style Magazine.
Right, me too.
And thought it was a great story. And I Googled him and found some other things on him, but had no idea that his story.
Well, you can read something about someone, but it's always nice to put the face with the story and the name. And he has a very dynamic personality, so I can see why he's always going to be successful at what he does because it rubs off on you. You can feel his energy, and he's got a lot of it. And he actually believes everything and cares about everything he talks about, and that's huge. He's sincere, and that came off in the interview. And he's doing a lot of great things.
I even love the name of his Raising Alphas.
I do
'cause
too.
That's important.
And I like the fact that he says it includes females
It always includes.
because we are allowed to be alpha.
We are allowed to be alphas.